Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to assemble the spring Egg-Centric house from Simply Crafty SVGs. So to start, we with the cutout house panels, we go ahead and fold on the scores with the tabs, and then I gently curl them, and that's as we assemble them it'll be easier. And I'm also putting them in order so you can see the window, door, window. And then there's 3 flower panels. 2 of them are the same, so just make sure you put the different one in the middle so it's in the back. So we will put those in order, and also just make sure that you go ahead and curl and score them to get ready to assemble. Before we move on, we want to add the little vellum pieces, and this is so you can put a little tea light in to illuminate it at night. So the short ones, there's going to be long ones and short ones. The long ones, let's flip over here, are the ones that are going to be behind the windows and the front door. So with the vellum, you don't want to put a whole lot of glue. The reason is you still have to manipulate it when you glue the structure together, the house. So you can put just light amount of glue, and I'm even putting a little bit more than I normally would. And then I'm just putting little dots behind that window frame to hold it in place. So you want to also put it above the fold line. And then I go from the bottom, I just gently place it down and apply pressure. And we'll do the same. I'm going to show you how to put the other one. So behind the flowers there's a thicker one, shorter, wider. So they actually will fit on both, but you just have to put the glue in different places. So it's just trying to make it easy so it's the same shape, so you knew that 3 of them go for the doors and window panels and 3 of them are for the flower panels. So again, do not put a whole lot of glue, just enough to kind of get it down there. And again, make sure that the bottom of that vellum piece is above the fold. And this is, you won't see this because it'll be the inside. I just added a little bit more drop of glue so it wouldn't come apart as I was putting the box together. So that'll enable us still to curl it a little bit if we need to as we're putting the house together. Then we'll just continue to put on the rest of the vellum pieces, and so you don't have to be bored. This is just, honestly, this is just the same steps with all 6 panels. And if it doesn't go down right, you can always pull it up and put it back down. And you know, with this particular house, you don't have to put a light inside, but it's just kind of fun at night, and it's a good option. You could always put a little gift inside as well. And then once we get these on, we will go ahead and start making the body of the house, putting these panels together. And we will not put the outside panels on first. We will do that afterwards, and that's to make it easier to put this together. So we want to put them in order of how we're going to put them together. So I have them stacked in order the way I want them for the flower panels. So like I said, there's 2 that are similar right here, then put the different one in between. So I'm going to start with the left window panel, and I'm going to attach the door panel to it. So what I like to do, especially if you're new, is I like to anchor one tab first. So you just want to make sure it's good and lined up on the top. So you want to line up that top score line. Make sure if it's a little bit off, it's not going to throw off the whole box. You could also start from the bottom. I just happen to do it from the top, but if you feel it's easier for you from the bottom, go ahead and do that. And once it's anchored, you, depending on the glue you use, and it's really up to your glue. I'm using in this little dispenser, I'm using art glitter glue. It does dry quickly, and you don't need a whole lot. So I only put glue on the next 3 tabs, but if you feel confident, you can do them on all tabs at once. if you're fast enough. I've never been somebody who's fast putting things together, nor I think I ever will, because I tend to make mistakes when I go too fast. So we want to make sure we're going down. If I start from the top, go one tab at a time, apply pressure, make sure it's good and secure. You're lining up that the right edge to the tab fold. If you've never done it before, it just takes a little practice. If you've done it before, this is a piece of cake. You see I'm just lining that edge up to the tab fold and making sure it's secure before I go on to the next tab. So this is just going to be repeated several times until we get to the last panel and we close up the egg house. It's called an egg house. So if you feel confident, you can go ahead and with each panel add, like I was getting to a point where I was adding glue on 2 tabs at a time and then anchoring the first one and then gluing the next one and adding glue to the rest of them. But it's really your comfort level and how quickly your glue dries. I never say that anything's right or wrong. It's just whatever works for you. Again, you hear me time and time. I'm always I'm so slow, and that's the reason why I actually voice over my videos, because I'm so slow that sometimes it's painful to watch me. But hey, I just know myself, and I just make mistakes very easily. So go ahead and continue watching this, and I'll come back when we're on the last panel to close up, to talk about how I recommend you close up this particular house on that last panel. Okay, so now we're to the part where we're to the last panel. So typically, if it's not a lot of tabs, I like to add glue to all the tabs at once. And then typically what I do with any kind of closed item like this is curved, is I will glue each end, the top and the bottom tabs, and then glue the remaining tabs in the middle. For this particular one, because it's curved more so on the top, and then but I have a couple nice defined folds down at the bottom of this particular box. I did that for a reason. I think it's easier in this case to start from the bottom. So I started from the top, but I kind of did it didn't work very well for me. So what I'm showing you here is starting from the bottom, and then just going each tab up and just reaching in from the bottom as you go up for each tab up. And you could, if at one point, do it from the top, but just matching up that edge to the tab folds. And I know I'm kind of going out of view here. Going a little bit quicker than I normally would. And here I didn't put enough glue. I was going too slow, so I had to add a little bit more glue. That happens. I don't like to do it that often because it kind of makes my paper not stick as well, but just carefully. And then that's always the hardest part when it comes to these things. Then I'm just holding it in place to make sure everything's secure. And you can see it's all together now. So next thing I'm going to do is to add this top piece. And that's where the roof will be attached to that in a later step. So it's just going to go over like that. So the way I like to do it is to anchor one side to a tab, so just lining it up and getting in place. So basically when I get it secured and it's dried there, then I can just add glue to the other tabs and line them up. It's not so easy when you're trying to line up a shaped item, but these are pretty big tabs. It's pretty easy to do. I say that, but if you've never done it, it's probably not that easy. So just kind of liberally add glue, but not too much so it leaks through the paper. Again, that's all just you knowing your glue and how to use it. I kind of place it over, and then you can kind of go around, and you can see I'm kind of pushing it in to make sure it's pretty much the shape. If it's off just a little bit, don't worry about it. You're not going to see it once the roof goes on. So then we'll add the panels. So with the panels, you want to kind of add a little glue around the flowers when you're doing the flowers, just little dots, but pretty much the top and the bottom and sides are where you want to focus on. The biggest thing for this is to match up where the openings are. So I do have it kind of, don't cut the whole flower out on the house for a purpose, because it was just too much intricate cutting. Go ahead and line those flower openings where the openings are on the house. And then you want to apply pressure, and you could hold it on the top and bottom. And the same thing, you'll be doing the same thing on all these panels, and the biggest thing is getting those cutouts lined up first. And then I usually like to apply the pressure on the top first, and then because I can reach better on the bottom part. If for some reason you wanted to do this before you put the top on, I guess that would make sense too. Some people don't even watch my videos, so they do it the way they want. And that's okay. I applaud them. So because the openings, just a fair warning with the panels, it may not seem like they're going to line up, but just line them up. It will. Remember, we're going to put an edge around it as well. So if you're a little bit off, it's not a huge deal, but they should line up. So originally when I made this box, I had the same exact cutout on the panel, on the box that was on the panel. I found it a little bit of a waste of time to cut it because you never see that detail, and it really didn't make a huge difference. So that's why it's cut out the way it is on the actual house. It took a long time, especially I did cut one with a Cricut. I used multiple machines, but it took a long time to cut those flowers out. So I thought, oh, if it's not necessary, let's not add it. Saves you on some cutting time since there's a lot of paper to cut with this. So now we're going to continue with the same thing as you go on each panel, and you can go ahead and watch me apply the rest of the panels, and I'll come back shortly. So now that the panels are in place, we're going to get ready to put all the items on the house. So here are the shutters in the door. So you can see these are two completed shutters. This is a completed shutter. So it's only two pieces. It's this little piece, and it has a little tab on it to attach to the house. Because there's a couple ways you could attach to the house. So I would say that you want to put get a fine tip applicator if you have one, apply glue, and just kind of shape it to the back part of the shutter. And there are little cuts to fold back, so they're not score lines or little cuts. You may not have, if you're a Cricut user, you wouldn't even have noticed it. And I inked the edges to give it a little accent before I put them together. And then on the door, I just embossed that front door piece and inked it a little bit on the edge, and then I'm just going to line it up on the front. The embossing folder is like little flowers, little daisies. I can barely see it. It was kind of a big one for that panel. And then I'm going to take our flowers out here. Get them ready. I was using a little embellishment bowl to hold all these items. These little items always comes in handy. And I forgot to ink this, so I'm going to ink this. This is it's like a little window with this above the door. The little border. So now that they're all ready to go, we're going to put them on the house. So this just lines up. So you can go ahead and watch me add these accents. The only difference is with the shutters, you'll see you can use the little flap to attach it and just let it hang out. But I found that I liked a little sticky something. I kept the flap just in case somebody wanted to just leave it kind of flapping open. But if you want to attach it, you'll see that I use a double sticky, the foam tape, Scotch foam tape, and I just cut it in small strips to attach it, to make it actually stick up. So looks like it's sticking off the side of the house. So that's your choice. You know, I know a lot of you have your preferences, but I thought I'd give two options for the shutters at least. So now we have the house elements on. Let's go ahead and move to the roof. So there's a base to the roof that will be glued to the top of the house. So we're going to go ahead and fold that piece. Looks like this. And assemble it. We just add glue to this little side tab, and then we will glue it underneath, aligning that edge to the tab fold. And this is really a structural thing where it's going to hold the roof. So you can put it flat to apply pressure. And that'll help you also fold the sides if you didn't fully fold them. I didn't fully fold the scores. Just like I did with the top, I'm going to I'm going to glue just one tab to anchor it. And we're going to just take the same steps. Once this is anchored, we will fold it over and glue it onto the other tabs. And you could use like a score tape if you wanted to attach this rather than glue. Glue tends to give you a couple moments to adjust. It is hard doing it on closed items like this. So I just kind of go around the edges, try to apply some pressure around the edges as I'm aligning it up. But it's not always as easy as it seems. And then once I get them lined up, I just apply pressure on the table. Now I do that a little bit longer for items like this. Otherwise they do come apart. But some people do use things like score tape. If you've used that before, a really strong double-sided tape, that's pretty much what it is. And I'll use that later on. And you see that it just sits on the top. But first we're going to finish all the other pieces. So I just take something like a round, like a dowel, and just curl the edges so they're kind of cut slightly so you have a little give, and then glue them together like that. So that's the very top tip. So we're going to go ahead and do the same. It's your option, obviously, to do whatever you'd like to do. Some people are really good at making flowers, so they have other tools to do these curls. I'm not the greatest. So all these are about the same. All these pieces are just slightly bigger as you get to the bottom part. So we go ahead and you can see that it's cut at the very edge to give you a little bit of room to curl it. So I'm just using like a little, the Dollar Tree skewers. But whatever you have on hand that's round. I think a smaller round one works better for this. But again, I'm not a pro at this, so I decided it would look cute with the little frilly things kind of flipping up the sides of the roof. Make it more whimsical. So I showed you the process on this. I won't go through that full process. I won't show you the full thing of how I did it with the larger piece, but it's similar. And you might even want to ink the edges or even emboss it, the whole panel, before you even do this, before you put it together. And you see it goes together just like the small one does, and so same thing with the larger one. So you just reach in, make sure you apply pressure. And I usually line up, once we get to the end of this, I usually line up the tabs where I glued it together so they can be like the back or the side, on the side of the house. So you don't see it so prominently, but you can barely see it anyways. So here's the third one. And this piece, that structure, will go inside. So we're going to go ahead and add glue to it, and I got a little messy with the glue. If you do, just keep a nice wet paper towel nearby. That's what I was wiping off with. Go ahead, it should fit right in. And then I would just hold it for a bit. And you're going to do the same thing with every step. So the second layer, just go ahead and add glue on the inside. And I'm just figuring out how to line it up. And then just apply the pressure. You just want enough glue to be able to stick it down so it stays. And I'm also applying pressure from the inside to getting nice and secure. Then adding that top piece. Then we'll just go ahead and take the box and we'll go ahead and add glue on the top. Then you'll want to go ahead and just place it on there. I'm trying to figure out which way to put it. Get it the way you want it situated. And then you see it fits just like the edges should match up with the edges of the house. Then you want to hold it well. So you want to hold it for a little while, make sure that it's good and dry before you let go of it. So that's the roof. I just wanted to hold it extra long. Then next we'll work on the stairs. So here are the two pieces to the stairs. One's going to be this big piece is the bottom portion of the stairs. And the smaller pieces is the top stair. So you see that solid piece on the bottom? That is the bottom of the stair. So we want to add some glue on those side tabs and just match up that edge, that side piece. You see it kind of bends around here. What you're looking at right now is the back of it. So as it gets narrower, that's the back of it. So where the fold is in the front for that long piece is the front of the stair. So I'd start with the gluing that little tab first and just lining up the edge with the edge of the little tab fold edge there. So the next part is a little tricky. In fact, if you wanted to do it the opposite way, because there is a little bit of bend to it. So what I would do, I showed you the first one, I wasn't too great, but you want to glue the first one in first. So that you want to do that one that's closest to on the right hand side. So I would suggest actually bending it up and gluing that one first and then gluing the second one. Otherwise you don't get enough pressure, as you can see as I'm doing it. There's always time to restart. So I'm reaching in to apply pressure to that one that's further in, and then the next. And if you want to have additional pressure, just use something like a dowel, or for that actually is a wooden chopstick. So this one, I'll show you properly here, because you see how it's angled on the side. You can still add glue to both tabs. Just go ahead and reach in and apply pressure to that first tab that's furthest in, and then apply pressure to the second to make sure it's lined up properly. Always make sure that that edge lines up to the tab fold, and then you can use a tool like this, a blunt tool, to help you apply pressure. So for this, you could glue those tabs on the outside or on the inside. I'm going to do it on the inside. You're not going to see it anyways. That'll be against the house. So you can go ahead and add glue to those two tabs. and then the bottom portion of this tab. Now in the file, I'm making it slightly different. I'm going to include you want to line it up like this, but this bottom tab, I'm going to widen it, or not going to, it's going to be wider in the file. Because unless you're using tape, it's really hard to attach on the bottom. So if you're having difficulty with it, I'm going to give it I'm making it a little bit large, so it will, when you get the file, it will be larger than what you see here. And I'll also put an optional bottom panel so you can glue on top of that. So here is the small stair. So you just want to fold over and line up that tab as shown. And it's easier to do this than it is to do the sides first. The other one was shaped differently, and it would have been more awkward to do it this way, but this one's easier to do it this way. And then you'll just simply fold those in. They do overlap, but that's okay. Where the tab shows is the bottom of the, you don't want to, we don't care whether the tabs show because they won't show when you put it together. So it's going to fit like that, so you can see that those little tabs will be in the back. So go ahead and add glue to these two tabs. You'll just fold it over, make sure that it's matched up, aligned, and then you can go ahead and hold it. While you're holding it, I just applied glue to that last little tab and fold it over on the back. You want to hold it for a little while, make sure it's good and secure, and then you do the same on the other side. So you're just making sure that those two edges on that side piece match up to the tab folds on the side of the stairs. And when you glue it down, you're going to glue it down so those tabs are on the back. You'll see right here, you see how you have the angled part on the front and then you have the tabs on the back. And you can see that's where there's actually a little score there. We're going to add glue on the back large piece, and that's where the angle is on the back. Then you can see that's on the back, so we want to make sure that's on the back, and then we're just going to line it up in that section and glue it on. Make sure it's centered and aligned with the back edge. And you want to hold it for a little bit just to make sure it's secure. Then after this, we'll go ahead and just add the little panels. And I was just flipping it over to give it a little bit more pressure. So here, just go ahead and dry fit them before you put them on. For this top step, there's a little bit of an angle, so you'll see that. And the panel will also be angled a little bit. And then just know which one you figure out which ones fit what section before you attempt to glue them, just to be ready. And I'll put in the notes, I'll put which embossing folders I used. This reminded me of cobblestone, kind of like a cobblestone, like a little stone walkway. I forget what dots they are, but I'll put in the notes below. I do add links below, or information at least, and or links, some Amazon links if I have them, to tell you the product. So we're just going to attach it to the bottom here. And it doesn't attach Well, that's one of the reasons why we have that little sharp edge when we put the house together. But I'm just going to add glue to the bottom section right there. And the best way to do it is to stand it upright and then line it up. It should line up. You can't see it because I don't have a camera angle like that, but you're going to line it up just in front like you see the pictures. You're going to apply pressure. So I kind of lifted it up to show you. You don't want it to come apart like that. But normally I wouldn't hold it up like this, but I'm holding it up to show you. So just do it against the desk, and then once you get it secure, you can lift it up, because we want to be able to lift it up. We can't have the stairs attached to the bottom because of the angle of the house. So once that's done, we're going to go ahead and build the base so we have something to set it on. So here I'm going ahead and folding on the scores for these two pieces, which are the edge, the edge of the base. We're just going to add those little panels that I embossed to the edge. And before I got started, I just made sure that I knew where they went, and that's helpful before gluing them on. So once I had them in place, I just lifted them and glued each piece, each panel. This would have been cute to add a pattern paper as well. You could also do a solid and maybe add some rhinestones on the edge. There's a lot of things you could do on the edge of these things. You could add the panels later, but I just think it's easier to do it when it's flat. And then once we have them all on, we're going to go ahead and glue those two pieces together. So the way you know to glue them together is to make sure that those little pieces are like apart from each other. So it's that large piece and then the two little sections on each side. So you're aligning that edge to the tab fold, and then we'll go ahead and flip it over and glue the other tab underneath. So go ahead and add glue to that tab, and then just go ahead and align that edge up to the tab fold. It doesn't go completely flat, but you can flatten it where you have the tab to apply pressure. So I'm going to go ahead and making sure that all those tabs are folded well. And then we'll go ahead and add glue to this. It's the thin tab. I'm sorry, the thick tab. The front one, which is the widest, which is between those two short little sections. We're going to line up that one tab. We're going to glue it. So we're basically gluing it on top and flipping it over. So that's what it looks like. And we're doing that first before we put the bottom one on, just to make it easier for this later on step. So we're going to take one of these large panels. One glues in, the other one covers the tabs. So it's just going to fit in like that. But what we're going to do is glue that large tab on the back first. We're going to anchor it there. And then you can either flip, you'll see me do different things, but you can either flip up that little section, or we're going to flip it over and add glue to the other tabs. I'm not going to do them all at once, but it is possible to glue them all at once if you'd like. So once that's in place, we can go ahead and glue. In this case, I'm just going to do a couple side tabs. Make up my mind. Flip it over. I want to get it in there. So go ahead and add glue to a couple of these little side tabs here, and you could go all the way around if you like. And then either flip it over and apply pressure this way. You just need to make sure all the tabs are flat on the bottom, making sure that those edges of that large panel are aligned to the inside tab folds of the edge of this box, or the base I should say. And then we'll finish it off doing the same thing with the rest of the tabs. This method to me is easier because I can apply pressure going downwards rather than trying to apply pressure with my fingers on each tab. The biggest thing is get glue on it and then fold them kind of slightly over before you flip it over, and then just making sure that the edges are aligned. So now we're going to put this little lip on to hold the house in place, so you can set the house over it. So it's just a simple hexagon. So we're going to go ahead and fold everything on the score lines and then glue them together, just lining this edge to the tab fold and then doing the same on the other side. And with hexagons you can just fold it over flat, so you don't need to, it'll make it easier to glue. So you just put it flat against the table and then align up the other edge and glue it. And then we are going to, we're making sure that these are folded backwards. So I kind of fold inward and then backwards because we're going to glue it to that little opening in the top panel, the one that we put on first. So I like to anchor, like I always do. I just anchor one of them. So you want to flip it over a little bit and anchor it underneath. So it'll flip over like this. And once you get that first one in place, and try not to get too much glue, I put a little bit too much glue. We'll go ahead and do the opposite tab the same way, because that helps center it in the cutout opening. And then we'll glue the other 4 tabs. Again, this is just so you can set the house over it, so it doesn't really fall over easily. You could just set it there, but this way you have a place to put a small gift or a battery operated light or lights, whatever you choose to put in there. It's pretty large. You could put a large light in there. So normally I would glue it, but this time I'm using score tape, and it's just a really heavy duty sticky adhesive that's double-sided. I didn't bore you with me taking off all the little pieces, so now the pieces are off. The only reason I don't like using this all the time is you have to be careful how you line it up, because it's so sticky that once you get it down it just sticks. So if you are using a double-sided tape, you just want to just make sure it's good in a line before you set it down, else you might need to use something like undo, which is a adhesive remover, to lift it up again. So it just aligned it best I could here. You could also use a wet glue, but for me it was just easier for me to set down. But if you do use a wet glue, you can just go around every edge and just apply pressure lightly. And then we'll go ahead and put this big panel on the bottom to hide the tabs. That's completely optional, but it is part of the file. Some people don't like that to show, and I was just kind of thinning it out so it wouldn't leak out the edges and to give it a little bit more coverage on the bottom. But it does clean it up. So if you gave it as a gift, they wouldn't see that. So I just kind of apply pressure against the table to get it good and secure. So now I didn't glue that on yet. That's just the a panel that's just sitting there just to show you how it kind of goes on. First we need to assemble the fold and place the fence panels together. So you see they'll go on like this, just around the edge. So before we do that, I do have some additional panels to put on the back side. So you're gonna, one side with textured paper, we want it to be textured on both sides. So, and this is the same with if you didn't use textured. So if you use textured, you just go ahead and add this panel on the opposite side of the cut and just line it up to different sections. There's 3 different pieces for each. There's total 6, but it's 3 per side. So it gives it a cleaner look. So a lot of times when you cut a paper, even if it's not textured, it may tear a little bit from on your mat or something like that, and this will just clean it up on the inside and also make it more secure. It will make it a little bit heavier duty so it doesn't just fall over off the side. So I'm just lining it up the best I can, making sure that the panels are in between the folded sections. Making sure there's no gaps with those 2 panels. We'll go ahead and take that large panel, and it's going, this is the left side, so this will line up with that left side here, and then you want to fold it up. You want to make sure that the edge of that panel is flush to the inside tab fold, and then we'll add glue to these remaining little tabs here. So you can slide that next tab under, and then the final front teeny tab for that little section, just that one little pull. And you can you just make sure that the kind of arrange the fence so it's not bent or anything, and that'll be on the bottom so you won't see it once we put it on. You could always add a little sign or something, or there's lots of things you could add to this design to make it different. Thought about a little sign that welcome, or just even be for a new home. So we put the other side already on. So now that you have both fence sides on, we'll go ahead and just add glue lightly. You see I'm doing it around the edges and a little bit in the middle. So I'm just gonna hold it by the fence to center it. So you want to get about the same space around that opening and the edges. You want to get it in place before, make sure you move it around, get it where you want before you start adding pressure. And obviously you can't do a lot of pressure because it's hollow inside. So you just want to lightly apply pressure where you had applied the glue, around the edges and the inside edge. Then that pretty much finishes the house. There's room in that little opening for a little gift, small gift, or a battery operated candle, which will illuminate through the vellum panels on the box. So it should easily actually slide on. So we'll take the house and slide it on there. There it is. There's a different angle. And I truly did enjoy making this house. I have some other fun ideas for different houses. I hope you enjoyed it, and I thank you so much for watching.